like you said, I'm Gary Davis with Bartlett West. We've been working on two things here, the drinking water and the wastewater. I want to give a quick update on the drinking water before I dive into wastewater. This is just some recap. I'll try to be quick. The plant is, the drinking water plant is in need of upgrades relative to it just wearing out. The water quality's been good, the bones are good. We're just looking at some equipment replacements, and I've listed that here in the scope. Probably won't go into all of that because I've done that on previous sessions here. Just wanted to update with you that I reported the cost here, which is very close to where we had it before, and that we were on schedule. We submitted to DNR on December 3rd our plans and specs, and now they're reviewing and going through all of that. This is being funded with DNR SRF funds, which is a subsidized loan, good interest rate. So that's been submitted to them. We're also working through some environmental aspects, which is basically getting excluded from that since this is just work done in an existing plant. And this is moving quick because we're looking to advertise somewhere in April for this. And I know Mike and Matt are really interested in getting that done, as that thing is wearing out every day, and it was put in place in the early 80s. So I could go into so much more, but I would just say construction, everybody wants to know when that's going to start, somewhere around August of this year, hopefully. And it probably would take at least a year. You won't see much activity right off the bat because they'll order all the equipment. It might take 6 months to get some of the equipment. So, but basically the bones are all going to stay, and anything with moving parts or electronics is replaced. So, any questions on drinking water? Okay. Wastewater, this one's a little bit further behind, which is fine because you have a schedule of compliance from DNR, meaning that you have to meet a new standard by March 1st of 2022. So we're looking at that date and working backwards, so I wouldn't say I'm extra comfortable on time, but there's enough time to do what we need to do. We've been working on a report that was funded 80% by a grant from DNR. We finished that report and submitted that to DNR last month. Now, we had a little bit of, I'll say when we got into this report, we started looking at the data. What we really looked at is how much flow is coming to the two lagoon systems that you have. We had some, we looked at the data and we felt like it maybe had some error potentially. Not that the operators were doing a bad job, it was just the devices. But we went ahead and had to finish the report because the grant had a timeline. Now, the report has been submitted and it could easily be amended. But we ran with the numbers that were out there, which were very high. I'll give you an example. I would expect each household to use about 100 gallons, each person in town to use about 100 gallons per person per day of drinking water and put it down the drain in some fashion. In 2015, the data shows that we had 200 per person, double, and it was a wet year. So you got some water into the system. That just seems, that's pretty high, okay? What I saw on the partial flumes, the devices, is it could be measured falsely high. So a recommendation here is before we go into designing something for the city, I think it would be money well spent. I have some figures here down in the next steps to rent a flow meter to measure this flow a little more precisely, because I wouldn't want to pad this because of the uncertainty and spend an extra $1 million. And this thing could easily be that, it's that sensitive with this. So we've got some rental costs. It's a couple meters at $7.95 a month. I'm recommending a few months. I'd like to see a few rain events come through and give me a little more comfort. That being said, that flow is a big driver of the cost. If the flow is 200, the expansion is going to have to be a lot bigger, and that means the cost is a lot more. If it's more where we think it's going to be, you're going to be right there where we thought, and originally in your body capacity. So another factor is this has to expand, and you guys know that this land application system is generally corn and soybeans, and now you've got some city-owned property recently. The further these properties are from town, the more expensive this is. Even today, I've been having discussions with folks, with Mike, that there's opportunities even closer than what we thought, which also impacts the price big time. Every mile you go out of town is hundreds of thousands of dollars of expense. So we want to have properties as close to the existing infrastructure as we can, and hopefully with some storage where we put some costs. So I wish I had a better exact number for you at this time, but I don't. But the next step is to measure that flow a little better, and then I will sharpen our pencil and get that cost where I think it should be. Thinking 3 months. So you're looking at a few months from now if you guys move on that. And then we would amend the report. Hopefully have some better answers on some of the options locally and get you guys closer to the ballpark of the cost of this thing. And if you remember, the voters approved a water and sewer bond. Drinking water, which we just talked about, wastewater, add them together, that's our capacity. So that's what we're working with, so that's one of our parameters as well. So closer to town is better. And again, the report's been submitted. I think right now we're holding it until we get a little better data. I've got some other figures there, and I brought a whole box of stuff if anyone's interested. But I've been visiting with Mike, and he's agreeable, Matt's agreeable to go ahead and install these. So that's all I had on wastewater. Again, 3 years from March. That's what we're looking at. I anticipate construction in 2021. And probably take about a year on that one. So 2020, we really need to be designing for sure. So this year's kind of a data collection and getting our options out there. So options, questions on wastewater.
How many months do you think we need to run the flow meters?
I think 3 months would be good as long as we capture a good rain event or two. What I'd like to see is some good, because what's happening is you're getting stormwater into your sewer system like everybody. And I want to see that reaction, because I understand that the domestic flow, say your day-to-day flow, if you go out and take a look, the meters are really accurate. Partial plumes are the standard, really. They're the best way to measure flow. What's happening is it's going above that and it's going inaccurate. So it's that high flow when you get a rain event that causes me either to not sleep at night or to I'm an engineer, be too conservative. And if we get this, I could come down and fine tune a bit and say, so if that makes any sense. So.
Gary, just a curiosity question, would you take our existing meters out and replace them with different meters?
Yeah, good question. So the partial plumes would stay. What we do is go upstream and install these, and install 2 of them because there's 2 lines coming in. The one I'm really concerned with is the northeast. The northwest, we're good. It actually has a pump station, and we can measure that easily. We're comfortable there. The northeast is the big one, and we don't have a full understanding of that. So, any other questions? I have copies of the report. They've been submitted. I can deliver additional copies if anyone's interested. Again, I expect an amendment because right now we gave DNR a range. What we did was we said, here's where I think it normally is with other municipalities. Here's what the data showed. We're going to be somewhere here, and so I'm not sure how they're going to react to that, but we're going to have to at some point pick a number and go with that. So. Hearing a lot of good things, and hearing a lot of good opportunities even today, like I said. So,
does Heather have a copy of that report?
She does, and we can do electronic also. Yeah, thanks to DNR for that, for the 80% grant, covered $50,000 toward that study. So that was good.
All right.
There's other activity going on, just so you know, with DNR. We're getting clearance, basically any of the opportunities we have for farmlands that are interested in the expansion. We're checking 7 environmental agencies for that, historic artifacts, environmental concerns, and we're also having geohydrological studies done that test the soil. So we may be able to eliminate a site if it has some historic, presence or something like along those lines. But so far, everything's been clear, which I kind of expected that. So,
Thanks.
yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. And
Yeah.
I think on the drinking water, there's going to be quite a bit more action, and I'll be hopefully coming back for those, and I'm welcome. So,
You're more than welcome. Thanks.
sorry I took so much time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you also, and moving on to item 5, Water and Sewer Department. There's an activity report in everybody's packet. Matt, anything you'd like to highlight on that?
biggest thing that we got done, we got the fire line that was kind of not really holding us up, but, to the Narragansett building, we got it capped off and shut off, so, took a little time finding where it actually ran and how to shut it down, but we did find it and we got it capped off, so I think our part of that is done. That's one of the highlight things on my report. Other than that, same old stuff, just assisting some plumbers on some jobs that we weren't sure about, and your normal shut people's water off and turn it back on. That's it.
Are lift pumps staying free of mysterious wipers things?
No,
No.
we found a couple rabbits in there when that big rain came through, and
It's a weird Swiffer.
yeah, it's a
Wow.
surprise every day. Keeps things interesting.
Have we ever been able to figure out exactly what those things are?
Yeah, they're flushable wipes that aren't flushable. Yeah, it's just,
They don't degrade like they're supposed to.
no, not at all.
Everybody in around the world has ever done it.
Yeah.
Whether it be-
We put some, extra, screens throughout town, see if we can catch kind of the direction it's going, and it's coming from everywhere, so.
We need to get the labeling on those things changed.
We need to have a city ordinance that it's illegal to sell those and use those.
I'd like to see how you enforce that.
Yeah, exactly.
We will have an inspector go in. Wow.
Is that all on that? Anybody have any questions for Matt on the activity report? Anything for what? Anything for sewer? There's an item under other, overview of water tap fee. I think that's a, do we have a handout on that?
Yeah.
Part of the, it's in the,
That's page 3 of
This was discussion in December, and so Mike and Matt put together some numbers, and so you have the total of what it costs for city staff to do the water tap on the same side of the road, and then as well as across the road. We had some discussion about doing 2 different fees. For simplicity's sake, we just split it, do 1 fee, then it helps front office staff.
What was our current fee again?
$250.
250, yeah.
The average of the two is $971.41, so. I think $1,000 is a number that's probably close enough to the average.
On the back of that sheet, you should, or the next sheet, you should have some comparisons of, what other places are charging, so.
How many of these a year do we do? Do you have any idea on an average?
I mean, we did 38
Yeah, I was saying.
single-family residential homes
Just
last year.
Last year,
Yeah.
38.
We may not have done 38, I mean, some of those might have been repeats.
I know
you didn't have to do water tap, but.
The phase that we're getting started on out here at Countryland, there's 27 there alone,
that'll be
so
that many.
that's not counting all the little lots around town.
So
They won't
the
have 1
average,
year, but they'll be split over a couple of years, depending on the job.
average is $971, means if we use the average price for those 38, it's $27,550 in the hole, essentially.
That's some change, isn't it?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Pays for equipment.
My house is done, we're okay.
you're thinking out loud right now.
What do you think, grandfather in?
If you would like us to move forward, we can have an ordinance ready for Monday night to change this fee. Just gonna need to know what your direction is, if you wanna go with $1,000 or.
1,000 sounds fine to
I think,
me.
yeah, that's.
I think it'd be a whole lot easier to try to figure out what side of the street it's on.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So one side could help the other side out.
Yep.
Connie, what's your thought?
That's fine with me.
Lana?
Don't wire me.
Whatever you.
It's better than what, 2? What are we charging, 2 something?
$250.
Yeah.
I'll need it.
I mean, I like the $200 thing, but I don't like losing money either.
No.
Can't have it both ways. ready to move on? Electric department, there's an activity report in your packet. Jeff, anything you want to highlight on that?
Oh, our tree trimming contractor got done last week, which was very good timing. What we had going on.
Yeah.
For weekend.
Do we have any trees come down from the snow or anything?
The one issue we had was the boring.
No,
The what?
People that are doing the boring,
Oh, okay.
hitting, nicking electric lines, and then like 1 o'clock this morning, we were out, because they had half power, and we were having to temporary it, and getting, I don't know when that's gonna be
Were they,
fixed.
you think they were bad locates or just,
I don't know, I don't think so. That's the second time on this run. So I think they hit it twice, but it just, all the moisture, it just finally burned itself in two, and it just showed up.
Do we have any outages at all with the storm? Good. Tree trimming is working now.
That's about all. We replaced a pole on South Phobia from an accident. Guy ran into it, broke it off.
power pole light?
And,
My friend made this feeder.
yeah, it was main circuit. About before you get to know out there on the gravel.
is it okay with
Or-
insurance? Do you have insurance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You smacked it hard.
Yeah, it is.
Any other questions for electric department activity report? Thank you, Jeff. Anything for generation purchase?
All of the contracts have been sent to Nextera for the agreement to 2030.
Anything for distribution? Any other for electric department? Moving on to public works. An activity report. Oh, anything you'd like to highlight in your report or?
Trying to remember, all I've been doing is hauling, plowing snow lately, so. Yeah. Oh, we, started out December about like this month working on streets, did a lot of work on our street sweeper. We, just getting old and rusty, and we spent several days repairing that. That was probably one of the biggies this month, getting it all kind of repaired and then back up and running.
Yes. The prospect of finishing Maze Meadows, a spring project.
Spring project, yes. Hope for an early spring. You don't know how much I'm hearing about that.
Sure, it's all your fault. Since you live there and you have to listen to it.
I get to listen to it. One more week of good weather and it had been done.
Yeah. Thank you for you and your crew for all the work you guys have done over this weekend. I was out Saturday in it, and the roads, Jefferson and stuff were good yesterday.
Thank you. I had lots of good help from water and electric crews, and for a bunch of them have never done snow removal, they all did a good job, so. I'm
Very
good
good
with that.
teachers. They're good teachers.
I tried.
Good deal. Any other questions for Phil's activity report? Moving on to streets. Proposal from ES&S for easements for Randolph Road.
Somehow this did not make it in your packet, I know it was in the folder for it, but we do have a proposal from ES&S And after Sydney started reviewing all that it's going to take to do these easements, she said she's not qualified. I mean, some of these requirements require that you have an engineer on staff to do this, to file some of the paperwork, and it's all very technical. A lot of it has to do with MoDOT and some of their requirements, that because we're going through CDBG, there's just quite, it's a bigger process than just getting an easement. So they've outlined some of those things. I can get you all a copy of this. I apologize, it's not in there, so in between meetings, I can go get a copy of it. But their proposal, their estimate for fees and services is $16,000. And they said it could be lower than that. It could be a little bit higher, but they said they're only charging for, you know, the work that they actually do and not just a flat fee. So,
I know, anybody else have any questions?
Sounds like me, the price of the street just keeps getting higher and higher.
I have a hard time spending more money on this project. We were split on whether we were gonna move forward or not.
Right.
So
And
I have
we
a
still
real
don't-
hard time spending more money on
and
it.
we still don't know for sure what the Board of Adjustment's going to do on this road. So that meeting is next Monday at 6 o'clock. And then we'll have our Board of Alderman meeting right after. So we don't have to make any kind of decision on this until after we find out what the Board of Adjustment's going to say.
So we don't have to decide anything on this yet?
No, this is really for your information, and since it's not in the packet, I'll get you all a copy of it. I'm not sure why I didn't make it next.
Well, we'll wait on that and then talk about that further later. Anything for sanitation?
The recycle bin, which has been good and bad, but we've been cleaning up every week, trying to keep up with it. We finally, Mike's worked with the City of Columbia, and they're picking it up twice a week now, so it's working out really well. We don't have to clean up around it every week.
I mean, it's a good thing that's given a lot of use.
Yes.
Anything that goes in that doesn't go to the landfill. Thank you for that update. Anything for stormwater?
And a lot of flooding here a while back, full of rains, but just lots of leaves. Just nobody's able to get the yards cleaned up the way the weather turned, so just fighting lots of leaves on that stuff.
And we thank you for that work too. Any other for public works?
Again, just want to reiterate that the crews have done an amazing job with the snow removal. We had phone calls with Boone County Emergency Management last week. Phil and Bob and Mike and I were all on a conference call with them. We decided on Thursday that we'd have our own emergency management meeting with all of the city staff, and when we asked for help, everybody was more than willing to jump in and say that they would help out, so really appreciate that.
Moving on to item 8 is other, the Public Works and Public Utilities Director's Report. Mike's report. I hope everything's all right. I saw him earlier, but he had to leave.
He had an emergency.
Anybody have any questions or comments, even though he's not here? Moving on to item B, results from the salary survey. It's also in your packet.
So you all have the shortened version in your packet. It's just the totals. I have all the detail here, if anybody wants to look at that. We put our committee together with a representative from each different department. So everybody had input, everybody went out and got information for us. It was very helpful because sometimes people have contacts in different cities or different municipalities that some of us wouldn't. We pulled some information from the NML website at the request of the board. We included the alderman and mayor salaries as well. So all that information's included there. Our committee met looked at, all of the numbers, and they are, a lot of them are underpaid for their job descriptions. Now, this salary survey did not take into consideration benefits. We have a very good benefit package, but, so I did have a meeting with, the union representative today, Eric, and, with Aaron, who's one of the stewards, and, kind of discuss what they were seeing, what they would like to request. So we'll have a closed session next week to talk about that. It's not on our closed session for tonight, otherwise we could discuss it then, but we can't. So, just kind of wanted to give you the information, and, everybody has a printout with, if we made every single position, we brought it up to the average, salary for every single position. This is color sheet that you guys have here. That's what that front sheet is all about. So if we pulled everybody up, we reclassified the job, the pay scale for each job is that front sheet. And then the bottom right-hand corner is the grand total, of the impact for the city.
What does the average, minimum, and maximum actually mean?
That's like their starting, like the starting of their pay scale, and
Okay.
it's just it takes into account the average for their current minimum. See, we did current because some people, of course, have been in their job longer, and then
Right.
minimum, so they're entry level,
Right.
and then maximum.
Okay.
This includes 3 new positions, are you?
Yes.
also?
Part of what the police department has requested, part of the public safety sales tax money could be used towards, more officers. And so it's decreased, response time. That's something we had discussed whenever we had talked about the needs in the police department. So that was, and it's a suggestion, but then also includes a 4th person in the street department. It would make projects a lot easier. They can go 2 and 2 instead of all 3 on 1 or 2 and 1, so. Now, you have 4 sheets. The top sheet is if we reclassified the jobs this year. It's quite a hit. It's $353,692 additional dollars. That's salary and benefits. The other sheets are proposals, that maybe if we had a little bit more time to figure out where we're gonna come up with all this money to reclassify all those positions, and we could consider a cost of living increase instead. And so that's what those other sheets, in your packets are for. That's what they outline. So this is really just for you all to, you can look over it. You only got it tonight, so obviously if you have questions, you're more than welcome to call me. But we will go into closed session to discuss what the union has, proposed. And to go into any more detail on the salary survey if you'd like to.
Well, I do think we don't know anything about benefits, what the other benefits are versus ours.
Mm-mm.
I think that's gotta be part of the discussion. I think we need to know that information.
Okay. I don't know if we'll have it by Monday.
I
I
understand.
mean, it took 2 months to compile all the other information, but we did just go salaries and not benefits.
You know, because they're both tied together.
Is there anything in our benefit package that's directly tied to your salary?
As far as,
I don't know, I mean, is it your benefit package, part of that your retirement?
yes,
Is your retirement based on your salary?
yes,
So we would ratchet up with your salary?
yes. And that's included in here. The longer you've been with the city, I mean, you'll get, at 10 years, you start accruing 4 weeks of vacation. So, you know, that increases as well, so then your holiday, your sick leave, your vacation pay, those all increase.
I think one of the
Actually,
biggest
everything
questions
is really,
would
Well-
be if cities of similar size, what percentage of medical benefits do they pay versus what percentage we do?
Right.
That's the biggest dollar chunk that people see.
Because healthcare is one that's not tied to salary.
Correct.
we can send out, that's the only one, that is the only one that's not tied to salary. We can send out a message and see if we can get some response back from some of the places that we talk to, just to find out what percentage that they pay. I'll have as much response back for next Monday as I possibly can.
That gives us an idea, if we're paying the same or equivalent.
Yeah,
same
We'll pay
ballpark.
100%.
I mean, if they're paying the same things we are, it's not an issue.
Right. And if we pay, I don't know what, and if we pay 70%, someone else is paying 65, that's not a big enough difference, but if we're paying 70% and the others are paying 30,
Yeah, we pay 100%
okay.
for employees,
Dependent children.
dependent children, and then it goes into spouses, employment, and all that stuff. So,
And the other thing that, you know, I would like to keep in mind is that, you know, in the next few years, I guess 4 years, minimum wage is gonna reach $12 an hour. And it doesn't necessarily affect us, we don't have to comply with the minimum wage because we are a government, but it will affect us. I mean, if we're gonna stay competitive and we're going to retain good employees, then we need to make sure that we are competitive with our wages.
And we know right now we're not very competitive.
We're not.
I think what's our ace in the hole, so to speak, is our benefits package. Because we have,
It is, but eventually, if we don't
Yeah.
kind of bridge that gap a little bit, then it's
Yeah.
not going to.
But
be
I'm not
as
so sure
enticing.
that that's on the plus side for us, because I suspect that most other cities are doing about where we are.
yeah.
And I don't know that for sure. But, you know, if other cities are paying the same benefits as we are, then, you know, that's not helping us.
Right. I'll,
It does help us versus the private sector.
Okay, absolutely.
If you
We'll
pull
send out
up,
a city clerk's email to us, Harrison.
if you pull up the new hires on the first sheet, I'm not saying no to them, obviously, they're just apples to apples, what's the impact? It's $213,000, so that's
Right.
not chump change,
Mhm.
it's a big hit, but that means we're not competitive.
That just reminds you of something, that's something we promised the voters.
But that,
I just want to remind you.
but that comes out of the new tax that's coming through and stuff, so I mean, if we're talking where we are in the current fiscal year, you know, that tax wasn't coming in and the new hires, those will offset each other. I'm not concerned about those, I was just, wasn't discounting it.
And I appreciate that, thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the salary survey?
I do have one question. As far as retirement, we're all in loggers, right?
We are loggers, non-contributory, rule of 80.
Is that pretty much what the other places have too? Do you know?
I'm not really sure what their loggers' benefits are, but we
Okay.
can ask. We can ask what their retirement is and what their medical, what they pay on medical.
Right.
Good question, Don.
I didn't know whether loggers was uniform across the state, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
It's not, no, you can pick different benefit
Right.
levels and then adopt whatever.
That's what I thought.
That concludes this Public Works and Public Utilities Committee meeting. Do we need to adjourn this, or we're just gonna move on to the next?
There's no light item to adjourn on this. I make a motion we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to adjourn this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Does anybody need a break? Well, it is now 7:43. I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I know attendance has been taken. The next line item is a website demo from Immense Impact LLC. I'm gonna turn it back on, okay?
Hey Shelley, this is Heather with the City of Centralia. Hi, you're done for our meeting. We're ready for the website demo, and whenever you are. Is it all right if I go ahead and put you on speakerphone?
Sure.
Okay. Just did, okay, hold on just a second. All right. We are ready whenever you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shelley Howey, and I am one of the co-founders of you also for considering us as one of the potential candidates for a new website for Centralia. I'm going to take about 10 minutes to give you a highlight of what we do. I welcome any questions. Heather, if I may ask, did Tara mention she was going to print out copies of the pricing proposals and give to all of the members?
Yes.
Did that happen?
Yep, everybody has a copy of that.
Okay, great. And can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, they all said they could.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, here we go. What you're looking at now is our company website. I won't spend a lot of time on this. I would rather spend time on y'all looking at the actual website solution, but I do want to point out a couple of things. If you have questions after we hang up, you're always welcome to email or call us directly. All of the features, everything that we offer is listed on the website. The pricing is on here. And so you can see, we're very transparent with what we do and what you get with our website subscription. You all, the city would fall into tier 3, and you see the monthly, there's a month-to-month plan, and then the annual plan, annual subscription, which is the best value because you get a month free. Everything is included with that price, including unlimited customer support. The only thing that is not included in this subscription plan is if you want a custom domain, and you all already own your own custom domain, the domain that's currently directed at your existing website. That domain can be redirected to point to any new website, and so that's not an expense you all would have to incur. With every website, this is a no contract, no cancellation subscription. Everybody's website comes with a 14-day free trial, which means no money is due for 14 days. And then in addition to that, there's a full 30-day money-back guarantee. So we launch the site, we train all of our new website subscribers on how to get it to the site. We do everything before any money is due. And then even at 30 days, if you're still not happy, and you want to cancel, you would get full refund. After 30 days, you do not get the website set up fee. It's no longer refundable. But anything on your subscription, if you have 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, we simply prorate out what's left, turn the website off, and return what's left on your subscription. So, pretty transparent. On all of our websites, there is a demo, a live demo, which you're seeing right now. When a brand new website is launched for our subscribers, it has all of they're launched in 3 business days, and all of the navigation and the tabs that you see across the top, all of that is set up for you already. As you can see, what we try to do is take the headache and hassle out of the development piece of it. What's great, so you can kind of get an idea quickly of everything that's in there. What is not so apparent though is that 98% of everything on this website is editable. And by that I mean you all have the ability to change the words that you use in the drop down. These pages are all set up for you and they have content already listed on them, but you have the ability to go in and you can change the names of the pages. You could turn the pages off by unchecking them off. And as well, you have the option to add an unlimited amount of pages if you would like. So the ability to add additional pages, delete pages in there that you don't want to use, or simply turn them off. That's all there for you. The backgrounds can be changed. The slides, when we launch our website, all of the images, everything that we use on the website is all copyright free and royalty free. We encourage all of our website subscribers to take pictures around town. With smartphones nowadays, it's very easy, but we will help in uploading or creating new slides for as you wish, as well as many documents as you wish. There is no limit. The only limit we have on images and documents is the actual file size of each individual one. There's a file size limit on both images and documents of 10 megabytes, which is very large. If you have a document or an image greater than that, it will probably not upload, so we'll help in either resizing it or compressing the file. So the piece, what we have is a customizable website. It is not a custom site. So a few of the limitations are the layout of the homepage. The layout of the homepage is exactly as you would see it. Now, again, you can customize it with the background and the colors and the pictures and the images and the information you put in, but the general layout of it stays the same. In any of the drop-down pages, for example, on, let's take this medical facilities one, you all have the ability to lay out the page however you want. Each page comes with about 8 to 10 basic available features that you can turn on and off, and move in any order that you want to. And I'll show you that in about 5 minutes. So that piece of it, in the layout of the pages, that is editable. Every system as well comes with a system of alerts, and that is included in the subscription price that you have been quoted. What it is the subscription fees. Your residents are able to subscribe to the website, and anytime you or the person in charge of the website sends out or posts new information on the alert page, as well as the recent news page, anytime a change is made and updated on these pages, the folks that have subscribed will get an email with the news and the alert information. And if they include their cell phone number and carrier, they will also get a text message on the alert feed only. So this is how easy it would be to subscribe. So you'll get a thank you for subscribing. So what I would like to do, and again, I'm going really quickly, and I hope I'm not going too rapidly, but I just want to be respectful of the time. This is a demo site, and you can see that I've got set up just to show you some examples. So you can kind of get an idea how it looks different. We've got a different set of slides. There's a slightly different background. I heard y'all had a really large snowstorm. I think y'all might have been affected. So I put a snowy background back here for you. So let me show you really quickly. I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but down in the right-hand corner of every website, there's a little link, and it's the admin link. So when you click that, it takes you to a login page. And I would like to point out that the site and the client dashboard that we're logging into now, they are all mobile responsive, which means it's just a fancy way of saying they're going to adjust the image size of the screen on the device you're using. So I hope I cut that in correctly. Okay, so I'm logging in with an admin login, and what that does is that pops you into the, we call it the client dashboard back office, it's wherever you make edits. On an admin login, you have access to every page on the website to make changes to it. If So I'm just gonna type something in here, and all you have to do, all you have to know how to do is type and click update for the most part. It's very simple. I'm sorry, I'm not good at typing and talking. So sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so you click save, and now it's sitting right there. And as soon as I click update, it's gonna do this, it's gonna say, hey, are you sure you wanna distribute this alert, low water pressure in the northwest section of town? I could click cancel and uncheck the distribute, and if I do that, the only thing it'll do will be to post it to the website. But I'm gonna send it out as well. So that message goes out to my subscribers, which you can see as your list grows. This is the list, and this is the demo, so don't judge. It's only a few little bogus emails in there. But if you look on the website, you're going to see right here, low water pressure in the north section of town. So that pops up there right there. I'm going to pop back here, and I'm going to show you quickly. I believe we talked about the different features on the drop-down pages. So if you scroll down to the bottom of any of the drop-down pages, there's a list. And you can see here on this particular page, you can check whatever boxes you would like to have on there. You have the ability to drag and drop them to any order you wish for them to appear on the website, on that particular page. So super easy, and to save that, you just click save, and then here you can display a single image or an album, and we will put the medical facilities here, and we're going to display it as a slideshow. I think there's only one picture in there though. You have that option, a single image or an album with multiple images you can display. To make any changes, all you have to do is basically type and click update. Make any change you like. I'm going to take that out. Frequently asked questions. Okay, and so again, you would just simply type and add as much information in there as you need. And again, you're never limited to one, like if you wanted to put multiple locations on a map for all the medical facilities y'all have in your city, you could add as many as you needed by simply clicking add new. Documents on this page, you have the ability to add as many documents as you wish. PDF, Word doc, doesn't matter. Every time you add a document on the website, onto a page, it automatically saves it into your document library. So it's a great place to store it. So you can kind of see some of the general information we put in there. And my lovely spelling. Sorry. Okay, so I want to show y'all one quick other thing. The design. If y'all have a logo, you can upload the logo and it would show up on the home on this drop down here. So this little space right here. So that's the place that would go. These are the different color schemes, and what's cool is you can change this as you need it. Sometimes people, sometimes keep them the same all year. Sometimes they change them seasonally. It's totally up to you what you wish to do. So these are the different color schemes. We provide quite a few backgrounds, plain backgrounds, some seasonal backgrounds, to reflect different parts of the country. I know it's super cold where y'all are. Let's put winter wonderland. Or you can use, I uploaded a snowy background here. We're going to use the winter wonderland. Update. And then we'll view the site. And so you can see the background change to blue, and there's even more snow up there, and the buttons change to green. So all your upcoming events appear here, and any recent posts day, that's kind of an example of what we try to do to take care of our clients. So, spring, Easter, we'll always have, like on the Martin Luther King one when you're closed, we try to get those printed up and stored in here so that our clients have access to them. And again, you don't have to use them. The last thing I will tell you is, on the website, on the department, we have the water utility, you can upload your water quality report. I'm sure y'all are doing that on your existing website as well. But we have it set up where you can upload your water quality report, and as soon as you do, it generates that direct link for you to print on your bills. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. And again, we assist with all that if you need help. So you can call us one time, you can call us 35 times, hopefully not, and you wouldn't really use that. The help is there if you need it. You're never alone. We are officially sponsored by National Rural Water, which again, that's different than perhaps the municipal league, that we started in the rural water industry, and so we've got a very strong relationship with Missouri Rural Water as well as National Rural Water. So this is just another platform that we have now that serves the needs of some of the smaller communities. So we're not a fly-by-night. We have, I'm very happy to say that we have over 1,000 website subscribers across the country and in Canada now. So there you go. Thank you so much. What questions can I answer for you all?
Anybody have any questions?
Can you discuss the taking of payments?
Can you discuss taking payments?
I can. Yes. We are the website provider, and we have a payment option button here. What we need from you all, and we work with online bill payment providers all the time, that we aren't the online bill payment provider. Once you get set up, y'all currently, let me ask you this, y'all currently have online bill payment?
Yes.
You offer that on your
We do. Our utility billing system is through CUSI, Kuzi.
Oh, yes, we know that, they're very much. Okay, so what we would do is we would basically, I could go in, we grab the link, and I could literally take that link off of your existing website, and we pop that link into let me show you. Right here. There's a automatic bill payment direct link, and it's right here. And so whatever that link is from Suzy, we would pop it in here, and then it creates this button on the front end. And there's also one down here. So when you click that button, it automatically directs you to, in this case it's PSN, but it literally would be Suzy for y'all. No transactions happen on your website, and I'm sure y'all know, no matter who you choose, you never want that to happen. They need to be going through Kuzi, which I'm sure they obviously are now. That's the same thing, because they have all the PCI compliance stuff, but it's not a problem. And something to keep in mind down the road, if y'all have more than one button that you need, maybe you have a separate payment button for traffic citations, one for utility billing, and maybe one for something else. We can assist you with that. We create multiple buttons, since there's multiple links, because all the button is a nice pretty link, but we will create those for you. And then, like, usually what we'll do is we'll put the words on, click here to pay your utility bill, and you can say, hey, Shelley, I want that green, I want this one orange, and I want this one blue, and so we do that all the time. And again, we do that, that's part of what you pay for. Our job is to help you, make it easy for you. Anything else?
Anybody else have any other questions?
Any integration to a calendar system, like a Gmail calendar, or?
The calendar, he said, do we have any integration to a calendar system? And I think Tara asked that the other day, and we can link to a Google Calendar.
Okay, but no online method of
Any calendar
reserving.
you want, like Google,
Is there reservations?
Yeah, for a community member to then reserve something.
Okay. His question was, could someone in the community reserve like our community room or something like that, a park shelter, through the website,
Through the website.
on a calendar? No.
Not what they could do. And, you know, honestly, well, the answer that I know what he's asking, like, do you have a mechanism that y'all could look into that could do that directly? Is that what he's asking?
Yes.
Okay, and the answer to that is no, we don't. Google, however, you could set up that calendar, like a calendar through Google, but again, it would be automated. However, Google Forms might be another option for you all. There may be a way to do that through Google Forms, connecting it with a Google Calendar. I'm sure there probably is a way, but as a direct response to what he's asking, there is nothing integrated in the website to use that.
Okay.
What else? Good question.
I can keep going with questions, guys. Any concept of subject matter areas where we could put a particular user over their area to be author, you know, to get authorship of that, rather than a super user or this operator concept that can only do alerts. You know what I'm saying? Like, that there's a
Right.
police department
Could
area.
could we give the police department access to update only their page and their
Not
content?
yet. That's coming. I know exactly what you're asking, and that is on the list to offer, so if you want the police to only touch their pages, then you can limit them on their logins to just their pages. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the answer to that is no, but it is on our list.
Okay.
As we continue to update and upgrade our software, we keep a running list. And so I know for a fact there's some updates coming to the alerting system in the next couple of weeks. Well, probably within the next week and a half, we're doing a major overhaul of the delivery piece of that. But that, the ability to assign pages to login is something we do want. It would probably, I would say we should have that within the year. But there's no guarantee. I don't want to say, hey, we're going to have it, don't worry, yeah, and then we don't fall through. But it's just, I can tell you, like I said, I'm one of the co-founders of the company, so if it was me to be totally truthful with you guys, then yes, that's something we definitely want to be coming on there, yes, but we will.
Okay.
How far to keep historic backups, you know, to be able to go back, you know, if someone says, well, you posted on that day, blah, 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 and we're trying to either prove or disprove.
Did you hear what that question was? How
I
far
heard
back?
part of it about backup.
I'm just curious how far back you keep them.
Do we keep them? No, it is all, this is not going to be a professional answer at all. I actually think I better find out the answer for you. I know that the software that runs all of this that you're looking at, it captures just about everything. And I think we can go back, and I know that doesn't sound right, and I'll find out exactly from our developers because they know precisely that if anybody has needed something restored to like a particular day, y'all don't have the ability to do that. But you can pick up the phone and call us and we can do that. But we're backing up continually to make sure, I mean, the security and that sort of thing is huge. And again, I'm not very eloquent when I speak about it, and I probably should be, but the honest truth is I focus more on like how it all works and the software and everything, that I will promise you, I will find out. And just to reconfirm, your question is how far back do we keep the backup?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Heather, I'll find that out and email you and
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
yeah, of course. What other questions?
I'll just be quiet.
Other questions? I think they are done with questions, Shelley. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. Y'all, thank you so much. Y'all, I'm gonna let go of stop sharing so you can have your screen back. And Heather, if y'all have any questions later on, please feel free to email me directly or shoot them to Tara or Heather, and I'll be happy to answer anything.
Okay.
Thank you so much for considering and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, no worries. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Heather, I'll send send you my other question.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I do. I do.
An IT person.
All right, any internal discussion? What we just saw? Okay. Public Safety Police Department Activity Report, the information's in your packet. It's on page 10, if you're curious. Bob, is there anything you wanted to point out?
Not necessarily on that, but on this sheet I gave you, I think everybody got one. That just gives you the stats for actual calls for service and everything else for 18 all the way back to 2009 in this case. What I wanted to point out is on the second page. Even though there were about 1,000 less calls for service, roughly, if you go to the green highlighted portion of it on total time dispatch declared, if you look at 2017, it was 3,279 hours. Well, even with 1,000 less calls, we went up on our hours. Tim and I have discussed this and talked about this and everything else. We went up, what was it? About 40, anyway, we went up. The complexity of the calls, the amount of time we're spending on the calls, be that with from time to dispatch to time for the investigation, everything else, is obviously went up. I can honestly tell you, complexity of some of these cases has gotten a lot more than what it has previously been. You know, they're not your simple little gas drive-offs or whatever anymore. And I can tell you by checking reports since September 3rd, the fact is I can guarantee you the complexity's up. Because I mean, it used to be I could whip through a packet of reports or approve them and send them to the prosecutor's office in a matter of about an hour. But the fact is anymore, it's a full morning job. So I just want you to understand, just because the calls for service are down doesn't mean our time dedicated to those calls is. Just want you to understand that. And like I said, it's busy, and Tim brought this to my attention, and I was kind of flabbergasted and really surprised, honestly. So, that's it. Like I said, I just want to bring that to your attention. And I don't really have anything on the activity other than that.
So I got one question on this.
Sure, sir. Go ahead.
So the total time dispatch to clear, okay, I'm just trying to understand what it's measuring. Is it from multiple officers, would that double their hours, or is it just time from start to
It's
finish?
from the time the call is initially dispatched to the initial officer, the time that officer clears that, be it cleared the report, clears whatever.
Okay. So if one officer's there or three officers are
It
there,
doesn't matter.
it's the same? Okay.
It's the same.
That's what I'm just trying to understand.
Yep.
Any other questions on the activity report or what Bob just discussed? Moving on to other, UTV ordinance and permit fees.
Well, this was in your original packet, and it did not make it into the updated version, so I can go get copies for everyone. I think this is something that we want to discuss.
Yeah.
So if you just need just a second.
Matt, when's that baby due?
I had a copy of
March,
March.
March
Couldn't remember
3rd.
what grandma said.
Yep, March 3rd.
Okay,
Original
cool.
had it, this one.
Everything going
it.
good?
Original had it.
Yep, so far so good.
That's pretty important.
Had a baby shower Sunday, so now my house is full of boxes.
Well, still,
Do you know what you're having?
No,
Good for you.
no, that wasn't my decision, but that's what it's doing, so. No.
While Heather's doing that, let me just give you a little bit of an update. We've had a few conversations with emergency management, with beyond what, with the storm and everything else. Emergency management several years ago offered, I think the mayor's aware of this, to take over the storm sirens for the city of Centralia. And here's what I will tell you that encompasses. That encompasses all maintenance, everything for storm sirens, including setting them off. Everything so far is at no cost to the city, and we believe it's gonna stay that way. And I'll tell you why this gets good to us. From what I understand, it's about between $17,000 and $20,000 to replace a storm siren. Our newest storm siren is 28 years old, and they have a 30-year lifespan. Notice I said newest. Talking to emergency management, they have no problem doing it. They think, we currently have 6, which one of them is out of service, due to whatever issues it's having, but you get that old electronics, who knows. They are looking at it with the newest technology of being able to cover the city with 4 sirens. All that cost is absorbed by the county, okay? I just want y'all to understand that, you know, this is a conversation that's being had, and like I said, the mayor is aware of it. Nothing is, we'll bring it to you whenever they get everything drawn up. They have to go to the, county commissioners and talk to them and see what their thoughts are and everything else. So I just want you to understand it's a conversation being had. There's no negatives for us. We still have the ability, if we wanted to set them off ourselves, but the fact is, so there's no one else in the county that has their own. So, you know, just to let you know that that's ongoing.
And, we are paying a half sales tax.
Right, we're paying a 911 sales tax, which is, you know, we're trying to get more for our money for the 911 sales tax that everybody's paying, okay? So, that's, and there's some other stuff in the works, and we'll talk about that when it gets closer. Okay. Now Heather's got it.
Oh, no, this is, instead of rewriting the entire chapter, Sydney took a different approach and just added 2 new sections for the UTVs and golf carts. Just mirrors the state statute, requires the insurance, an inspection by the police department, a permit fee of $15.
Under the current statute, I'm asking for clarification or correction if I read it incorrectly. Do we require a bicycle safety flag?
Okay.
On what? On golf carts, no.
No. And
On anything?
No.
What was that referring to?
It is in the statute, but we'll try to find one.
It's for ATVs, isn't it?
I
Or
thought it was
does
for
it include UTVs also?
It's in the state statute, and, I had this discussion with Sydney, because the fact is, I wanted to take it out, but she told me, due to the fact it's in state statute, you have to leave it in there. We were of the same opinion, because the fact is, go try to buy a bicycle flag, by the way. Now, you buy those speed vehicle triangles all day long.
That was gonna be my next question. Are those currently, under our current ordinance, is the bicycle flag required? Is the helmet required if you're under 18? Because I read all those things, and is a slow-moving vehicle triangle required?
Okay, requirements.
Well, that's my point. The whole thing is pretty confusing to
Right.
try to read, understand, and then interpret. You know,
I get your point, okay? The bicycle flag is a portion of it that would not be enforced. Because one thing is, go find one. You're not gonna find one. You just sell them dime dozens, but they're not around anymore. I've looked. I've been with bicycle shops.
well, and the reason why I bring this up, you and I had a discussion about what was the motivation behind in the sticker. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding from you, it would be a good indicator of who has an understanding of the ordinance. And thusly, you could almost ensure that they would have the proper insurance and all those other things.
Correct.
And so when I was reading the ordinance and I saw all these other requirements, that seemed like very good indicators. I mean, if somebody's displaying their slow-moving triangle or bicycle flag, that, to me, that would almost serve the same purpose as the proposed sticker.
Okay. We're not requiring, even though, how do I say it? The state statute says you're supposed to have a bicycle flag. State statute is outdated. I'll tell you that, it's outdated. But it's probably not on top of anybody down in Joe City's list. The way things are written, or the way things, let's just real life, practice is this. Yes, there are some that have their slow-moving triangle, okay? But I've had real life experience with people driving these things and not having insurance on them. Which, it's an insurance, it's the ability to say, yes, these vehicles have insurance. Now, you have somebody from come from the country that doesn't have to abide by it, I can't do anything about that.
I'm curious, this says prior to operating on our streets. That doesn't have anything to do with whether you're a citizen of the city. It just says you can't operate it unless you follow those.
And and I don't know that we can put requirements, I guess we could.
Other than saying you can't operate on the street.
Well, that's true. I don't have a copy of that in front of me, I don't know.
Oh, I apologize.
No, I don't have a copy of it in front of me.
It's like the section.
And I read it earlier this week, but
Yes,
we're at
you made the very first sentence, prior to operating, so it's actually talking about, it doesn't really matter where you reside, it just says you won't be on our streets.
Jim just gave his to Bob.
that is,
So are we proposing then, it's not,
it was never my intention. To do it as if you're gonna bring it into town, you need to have it permit.
The current ordinance,
Can I ask a question?
sure, absolutely.
What about Chance Company with all their vehicles
They-
running up and down the street and no?
We've had this discussion already.
yes, we have.
Yeah, and what
I
about
work at.
Anchorfest?
Huh?
I
What
work
about
at
Anchorfest?
one, they would have to be
Anchorfest
compliant.
falls under parades and special events.
Okay.
It's
Hubble
still
would
the
have to
same.
become
You'd
compliant.
have been here on time, you'd
We
have
had
known
that
that.
conversation a while back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
He's
Anchorfest falls
not
under
listening to
parades
me,
and
Landon.
special events.
If their
Okay.
meeting didn't interfere with my Legion meeting, it would be okay.
Like I
No.
said, if you'd have
Well,
been
like
here,
I said,
you'd
it
have
falls
had
under
that
parades
answer.
and special events, Anchorfest does.
Okay.
Okay, and that is addressed.
Well, it does seem a little odd if we're saying that the reason we want these stipulations is so that if someone, for example, has an accident, all these things, that it deals with operating the vehicle, not the fact that you're a resident of Centralia. It seems odd that we're saying, if you don't live in Centralia, that's fine, you don't have to have any of these. Yeah.
Okay. You want the name of the person that's gonna be operating it, right? Is that one of the? Okay. With me being a farmer, I don't know, I'm gonna be driving, what if I've got a hard hand out there? And they use it.
Okay.
I mean,
There are two totally different statutes when it comes to things like yours falling under farm vehicle. That's a totally different statute than what we're proposing as an ordinance.
well, what I'm saying, Bob, is I thought I was legal, like I said, they said I was. But it was, my point is,
She's got mine.
not knowing, am I gonna be legal? I mean, can I bring that thing to town?
That's what I think we're discussing right now, is the fact is, because honestly, I had missed this prior to operating a low-speed vehicle, golf cart, all-terrain vehicle, or utility vehicle on the city streets, roads, or alleyways.
Well, Isn't there a difference between golf carts and UTVs and ATVs? As far as-
ATVs can't be driven on road, period.
Okay,
So, yes, that's why there's a different section drawn up for UTVs versus golf carts.
because with golf carts, you don't have to designate who's driving it, the way I understand it, but with UTVs, state law says you do.
Well, our last ordinance we talked about had both on that, and I'm trying to.
Well,
see
yes,
what's
he
in
did,
it.
but I believe that there was a difference in golf carts didn't require it.
Hold on.
I thought we said both did.
Heather, when you said this was based off of what we
Well,
currently
when she
have
was
with the
changing
change
it
of two
to the-
sections.
She changed it.
Right.
Adding two
Okay,
sections.
what were those?
These are the two sections.
These are the two sections we would be adding.
Yeah.
Nothing else would change.
I
This
see,
is what
okay.
we would propose to
Nothing on
add.
the golf carts would change.
Has anybody else
that?
seen here where we gotta provide a list of authorized users? Because I did not
I
see
didn't see
this.
that in here.
It's not.
I did not see it when
included in
I looked at it last night.
Well, it's a dumb requirement.
Was
Not if
my
it's
objections
not if it's
last
not in the
night.
ordinance, it's not.
No, well, I mean, it's a dumb requirement in state law. State law is where Cindy said it was.
And again, I think that's interpretation.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
see
it does
I see
say, and it just says Missouri revised statutes as they may be amended from time to time. That's as far as insurance.
But you're right, this is probably very, very low on the legislative priorities.
I think we should wait till she gets here.
So the next question you're gonna have is, on ATVs, are they gonna be able to push snow with them during the snow?
I believe.
Cause there was a lot of them running around.
Yeah, I know.
It says for
ATVs.
agricultural purposes.
Did you say eight?
ATVs.
Yeah.
Are you gonna let them keep pushing snow, or are you gonna cut them completely out?
I think anybody wants to push
Yeah,
snow, ought to be able to
train
push
them.
snow.
Well,
You know,
But it's
when it comes to something 16 to 18 to 20 inch, whatever, 21 inch or something, if they want to push snow with it, push snow with it. Because the fact is, it gets off the roadway.
well, they're gonna push snow in two inches of snow, 3 inches of snow.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm just,
I don't, no, I know. I know.
you're just gonna have questions brought up like that.
ATVs also fall under agricultural use, I do believe.
Yes.
I believe they do. And if you can classify them as agricultural use when they're moving snow, so be it. As long as they're not after doing something stupid, I don't care.
I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm asking.
Thanks.
Found your bike flags on Amazon.
Walmart, if they exist, it's on Amazon, right?
Walmart carries it too. Yeah, but, hey, why would you so?
Oh.
It says that you can use an all-terrain vehicle for agricultural purposes. Would you consider that?
Well, pushing snow is not necessarily agricultural,
Or industrial on-premise purposes?
but industrial agri could sort of buy.
But you also have discretion. You know, just like you do with anything else.
So we could call it a snow parade.
There you go. Special event.
Special event.
Snow parade, yeah.
Alright. Well, Cindy will be here next week for
Yeah, I think we
questions.
should just mull it and then.
Let me get into this, because like I said, I haven't really had a chance to read it.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
discuss it more in the next.
Monday, yeah, Monday.
John, to answer your question, yes, you are.
I believe.
As long as you say that thing's a farm vehicle, you're legal. Throw a bale of hay in the back of it.
You still want me to come to the station and talk to you?
You don't have to.
You were already on the gravel, if you'd just forwarded, they would've never caught you.
I could have turned around and
I mean, you can go through the field and cars ain't going through.
I could have did this, but I didn't think I'd done anything wrong.
Hey,
Oh, I don't need no help from you.
I'm a problem solver. It wasn't
You-
been
you
solved
make a
today.
That's what happened to the guy out there at Forest in that field the other
You
day.
answered my question, Bob, I'm leaving. See ya.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
before we move on, there's also another page in the agenda that talks about, or the packet, I'm sorry, talking about animal count for 2018. I apologize, there wasn't a line item in the
Oh, yeah, we just included that, just so you knew how many animals we held over the last year.
How'd 11 cats get loose?
I was gonna say, they're like escape artists.
No, I'm gonna tell you right now, some of them cats, you open the door, and if you didn't latch that thing good,
Right?
they're out, they're gone. And don't try and catch them ferals.
Yeah, dogs 0, cats 11.
Dogs are slow.
All right, any questions on that? All right, moving on, fire department activity report, the information's in your packet. Denny, is there anything you'd like to point out?
No.
Good job, Denny.
Let's go.
How's the, construction on the shed doing? Good done?
We need to put the outside metal on. We kind of run out of time. We've got it covered enough where it's weather tight and
Okay,
we'll be all right this spring.
all right, thanks.
I don't know if you all have seen Denny since he was given his award, but he
Yeah.
just recently had celebrated 35 years of service with the Centralia Fire Department.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes, speech.
They still keep coming. I mean, the back page shows, I think we're down 28 calls, if I can remember right, last year, so. I think we were 600 even last year this time.
That's good.
Well, like Bob said, they might have been worse calls. How you know? I know this year started out crazy.
Any other comments for the fire department? All right, thank you. Emergency management.
We had a couple of emergency management conference calls last week. We're expecting some more this week, possibly, maybe Thursday.
Can tell you're excited.
We've been, like I think Bob kind of updated you, talking to Joint Communications and Lieutenant Emergency Management about taking over our sirens. They're also going to kind of change the system that they use to dispatch fire calls. Right now, all of our 911 calls go to Joint Communications, and then they're dispatched to the Centralia PD, to dispatchers, and the dispatchers then tone out our fire department. We're gonna cut out the middleman, and all of those calls are gonna go directly to the fire department so that they can have response times.
Faster response
And then the calls will still come to the CPD.
Yeah, initially, the initial dispatch, the tones and such will drop from Joint Communications, but then essentially, the ladies over there have to take it from there. Andrea's still gonna be talking to them.
You're still gonna get it so the police can respond to the same things if necessary.
Right, it doesn't change anything the way we do business now, it just reduces the response time. That's all it is.
Which is good.
Business is the same.
Okay. A protective inspection.
I don't know if this would fall under, but Lincoln Brown was supposed to come do a site inspection of the Narragansett building this week. I don't think he's gonna come this week after all the snow. It might fall
I'm
in on
recommending
him.
not going to the building this time.
Yeah.
Didn't look, did any more of the roof fall in?
I didn't notice. I know our net's down. We actually have increased surveillance over there, not surveillance, but just patrolling over there. We think that somebody's been in the building. But
Wonderful.
uh,
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you're thinking out loud again.
So, anyway, we're just waiting for the, final site visit and everything came back. No tribes had any claim to the land. So we're good here. We're cleared that part of it.
So have we gotten that money already and now we're, oh, no.
No, we won't receive it until
So we actually
we
start
start the
tearing it down.
demo.
Okay.
What's the, status of the other two properties? I think he's,
Similar, yeah, he's gonna do the final site visits with all three at the same time.
So we might, probably not gonna make it this week because of the snow.
I don't imagine. We'll see.
And maybe not next week after the next snow.
yeah.
Maybe not.
Moving on, general government and finance, economic development. Looks like there are meeting notes from the chamber meeting, and then an agenda for the January 8th meeting.
Is it?
Yes.
Send her an email.
She changes every time.
Any comments, questions?
Was that the last chamber meeting, was October 9th?
We had one, last week, but, we didn't have a quorum.
Park board. Get meeting minutes in the packet. Any questions or comments?
Anything you wanna point out?
Just waiting for you.
All good.
Denny's going, yay, come on, we'll go home.
Cemetery report, no report,
No.
neither with the tree board. Library board, the meeting agendas in your packet. And meeting minutes from the December 13th meeting and January. Any questions or comments? Moving on. December 2018 financial statements. Anything you'd like to point out, Heather?
Yes. The general fund balance is about a negative $80,000. And I've been trying to figure out why that would be, because typically this time of year, our general fund balance, I mean, sometimes it falls in the negative, but then it picks back up with the, taxes when we start receiving them. And then, so I've been combing through the budget book, and I found that there were some budgeted fund transfers that had not been communicated and had not been done. So we transferred the remaining $106,000, about $106,000 from the equipment use fund to the general fund. So that should make up that balance. We should be good to go.
Any other questions or comments on the financials? Those over $1,250. It's the very last page of your packet. Any questions or comments?
I see this is the third invoice for ES&S.
Yes,
You know what the total is so far?
this is the final. Nope, I can get that for you. It would be on the AED. I don't have the vouchers here.
I'm just curious as to where we stand.
Other general government. Any other?
That's for 55,000.
55,000.
I was thinking yes. 55 is so far.
70. And they're gonna stay.
Take the recent closed session.
Move that we go into closed session. During the meeting, the Board of Aldermen may elect to go into a closed session and hold a closed vote. And the purpose of such closed session and closed vote shall be provided for under section 610.021 subsection 2, leasing, purchase or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration therefore.
I have a motion to hear a second.
Second.
Second, and roll call.
Alderman Lee,
Yes.
Alderman Hudson,
Yes.
Alderman Wilkins,
4.
Alderman Bagley,
Yeah.
Alderman Boardman,
Yes.
Alderman Rogers.
4.
Centralia
Police still here though.
Hey, serve and protect.
We thank you for sticking it.
Serve and protect.
Only vote taken was to go back into open session. As may arise.
It did not make it into the packet, but I do have, our IT committee has been meeting with, or our technology committee's been meeting with IT firms. That is actually why you all had the, website demos, because we asked for website, proposals, and they were the only ones that responded, so that's what you got tonight. But we did
The
have.
people who were doing that present one didn't respond?
No. And so we did have 4 firms, respond to our IT, proposal. And at the committee met, and of those 4 firms, David Wilkins had the best proposal. And so he can be hired as our IT consultant because he submitted a proposal without seeing all of the others, just like everybody else did. We ran it by Sydney, just to make sure. So the committee, I believe, Tim Cribb's on the committee, I'm on the committee, Terrence, and then, well, David is.
I recused,
But he did not make it up. And the mayor, and we would recommend to hire David for our IT services. He's already familiar with the PD system, he actually built the majority of it, and, we think we'd be in good hands. So we're gonna present that next Monday. I'll give you the numbers of the proposals and how much better the cost came out with it. As opposed to the other stuff.
Any other estimate or ayes? All right, a motion to adjourn? I have a motion and a second. A motion second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, we stand adjourned.
Centralia
Police still here though.
Exactly. Hold down the fort.
We thank you for sticking it.
Serve and protect.
Only vote taken was to go back into open session. As may arise.
It did not make it into the packet, but I do have, our IT committee has been meeting with, or our technology committee's been meeting with IT firms. That is actually why you all had the, website demos, because we asked for website, proposals, and they were the only ones that responded, so that's what you got tonight. But we did
The
have.
people who were doing that present one didn't respond?
No. And so we did have 4 firms, respond to our IT, proposal. And at the committee met, and of those 4 firms, David Wilkins had the best proposal. And so he can be hired as our IT consultant because he submitted a proposal without seeing all of the others, just like everybody else did. We ran it by Sydney, just to make sure. So the committee, I believe, Tim Cribb's on the committee, I'm on the committee, Terrence, and then, well, David is.
I recused,
But he did not make it up. And the mayor, and we would recommend to hire David for our IT services. He's already familiar with the PD system, he actually built the majority of it, and, we think we'd be in good hands. So we're gonna present that next Monday. I'll give you the numbers of the proposals and how much better the cost came out with it. As opposed to the other stuff.
Any other estimate or ayes? All right, a motion to adjourn? I have a motion and a second. A motion second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, we stand adjourned.